Skyway, ladies and gentlemen. Seems like my camera has a little bit of a weird glare on it.
Not big dick though.
Because the lights are looking weird. Look how the lights look. That is so weird. Excuse me. The lights look strange there on the podcast.
Ooh. Maybe because you're an alien.
It's psychedelic. You gotta lick the camera lens here.
Ew. Yeah, lick the camera lens, girl, yeah.
There it is. It looks much better now. What's up, party people? We got that crisp, fresh camera lens popping off. We're supporting Bernie Sanders' shower door.
Oh my God.
For president, everyone.
No.
Da, 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 da. Wheel out that piece of glass. It took down the head Democratic nominee. And the Bernie shower door has won the primary, it looks like. And it's a mortal wound. What's up, AJ? I fixed the lights for you. There was a little smudge on the damn camera there, evidenced by my phone being in my goddamn pocket all day.
He rubs it on his dick all day.
I do not rub my phone on my dick all day. This is fake news.
No, you just said it. Makes it real.
Propaganda.
Propaganda.
Oh, ladies and gentlemen, what a day. Just ticked over to Saturday, March 16th, 2019. And we're gonna review several things here for your delights. We're gonna get into the gayest game of tag that I've ever heard of. The HIV hairdresser spreading that bug.
What a fucking piece of shit.
And bragging about it.
Piece of shit.
And he seems like a real bug chaser. And very creepy, very weird. Brexit still not happening. The British people still have no free will of their own. They're being ruled over by the EU, most properly. This is how things should go. We're going to get into Bernie, tipping into that shower door and somehow coming out with us needing 7 stitches in his forehead. Just incredible, everybody. If he can't take on the shower door, how's he going to take on the Saudis?
Suck dick, make money.
All right. How's he going to take on the lobbyists and the establishment and the deep state? All right. You got to get past your shower door in the morning.
You're horrible.
To take on the deep state.
Wow.
All right. Bernie was in there furiously masturbating to an audiobook of the Communist Manifesto and slipped in his own splooge and cracked that noggin on the shower door, I think that's what happened. And it's understandable. I mean, how can you not rub one out to the Communist Manifesto when you're getting ready for your day as a socialist tyrant? That's the MO, ladies and gentlemen. We could talk a little bit about some Utah Jazz fans being permanently banned from the NBA games there in Utah for one guy called Russell Westbrook boy, and Russell Westbrook apparently thought that was incredibly racist. And I don't get, the stigma around the word boy. I get it has a connotation back to slavery, but it's like, slavery's not happening anymore. It's just the word boy. Like, these people are being called, like, blatantly racist for, like, talking shit to Russell Westbrook, calling him boy. Like, I don't like fans that talk shit from the stands, because obviously Russell Westbrook would destroy this fucking guy. Yeah, what's up, Leighton? When he was a child, his father called him boy, so he sued him. That's the legislative society we're living in.
Really?
And, no, but it's kind of goofy that the what up, Vanessa? The city of Utah is like totally cucking out and be like, we didn't know our fans were so racist. It's terrible. We're trying to crack down on the racism and it's like first of all, without racism, you wouldn't have these super athletes to watch. All right, there was selective breeding. Just fucking But the whole like controversy on the word boy is like absurd to me. You know, we can get into that a little bit. Students around the world hold climate change walkout.
What?
Make love, not CO2. All right, so we're teaching these kids about butt fucking and propaganda about the climate, and you know they're gonna be more inclined to start butt fucking earlier, you know, because they think the world is gonna end in a dozen years, and so we got to get that fucking in, ladies and gentlemen. Forget sexual education. Let's just, you know, sexual fornication. Let's just sexual encouragement. Let's get these kids fucking, because why not? The planet's going to implode in a dozen years anyway. All right? So they're walking out of schools to promote the Green New Deal. I saw that at the lovely, you know, propaganda matrix up on the wall at the gym today, CNN. And isn't it just lovely how they play it in all the public spaces and you just can't get away from it? Students are supporting the Green New Deal. They support collapsing the economy. All right, we got to listen to the kids. Nancy Pelosi wants to lower that voting age to 16. All right, because we got to catch them before their brain is fully developed. And so that's the perfect time to accept Democratic talking points, is before your brain is fully functional. We got to catch you in that transition stage, baby.
And I do something said, baby.
I felt like that was a forced dick joke.
It wasn't, because I like dicks.
You have eggs all over your lips.
Do I? That's disgusting. Baby, you got my eggs all over your lips.
I don't have eggs. You have eggs.
I'm black.
She's black, everybody.
With a fat ass and small waist. What do you do for breakfast?
What do I... You just hijacked the podcast. Yes, Heaven is feeling better. She's having vodka and eggs, and she's black, everybody. It's, you know, it's breaking news.
In case you forgot, I'm still black.
She feels very sad for Bernie Sanders because she doesn't like seeing old people.
I hate seeing old people with like things on their head. I'm like, they're babies. Like, no.
Yeah, but you know, here's the thing about the Outrage crew. We see that and we see weakness, all right? Because
he's so sick. He wants to like he was a shower door.
when we see weakness, we step up in the spot like this, all right? We come in.
Let's do it.
We got no time for 80-year-olds hitting their head in the shower, dude. All right, we're off on this dragon energy. All right, we got no time for you, man. You get left in the dust. I'm still going to be doing squats at 80. All right, I'm going to be doing squats, laying pipe, and doing stand-up sets. God damn it. By the time I'm 80, 80 will be the new 50. All right, I'll still be drinking Natty Light on the podcast. No, I hope it won't be Natty Light. I hope it'll be Courvoisier or some kind of expensive liqueur. Some Hennessy. You know, something a little more high quality. What up, Nicolas? Quintanilla. Bernie thought the shower door was a Nazi and tried to headbutt it. Old age will do that to you. Yeah, dude. I said he was, you know, rubbing one out to the audiobook of the Communist Manifesto, and he slipped in the shower there. and whack that noggin, dude. Well, AJ, at least you were actually. AJ says he can't talk shit about Bernie Sanders hitting his head on a shower door, considering he hit his on a forklift once. Well, at least it sounds like you were out there doing some work. You were providing some value to the economy there, something that Bernie Sanders has never done a day in his life.
Bernie Sanders, you're an old man. You deserve to be happy. I love you.
His idea, nobody deserves to be happy. You got to earn it.
I hope you don't ever find love in your life.
Nobody's happy just based on the merit. You got to earn happiness. What up, Polmeister?
I'm happy every day. Hey.
But yeah, AJ, you earned that head trauma. All right, you were out there working your ass off, using a forklift to do something. But Bernie Sanders, he was just trying to clean off that old, decrepit, loose skin demon body, and slipped in the soap suds there.
What? That was so disgusting.
Is there anything more disgusting than picturing Bernie Sanders in the shower? That's the question.
No, what you just said about his kettle juice?
Quit defending Bernie. All right? Just because he's an old man, he wants to rule your life. He thinks he can spend your.
He has a patch on his head. It's not cool.
He thinks he can spend your money better than you can.
And I let him. He's an old man.
See, this is why we can't let women vote.
Oh, fuck you in the face. Harder. Fuck you. You're a dick.
Because they're too empathetic, all right? And they're not callous enough. They don't recognize weakness when they see it, and they just want to feel sorry for it and help it out. Don't stare at me off screen on the podcast. Listen, all right? This is what this podcast is. You know what the fuck it is when the Outrage crew walks in the room, dude. You know what the fuck it is. You already know what the fuck is happening, dude. We got no time for Bernie.
You know what's up, man? Let me tell you. How are you?
It was actually the truth that hit him in the head. Yeah, he read some Murray Rothbard there. He was reading some economic arguments, and his head split wide open. This is all, a propaganda cover for, his. He got hit with a truth bomb. He watched an Alex Jones video, and his head just burst, ladies and gentlemen, because it had some activity that was latent for decades, and some brain cells fired, and his head cracked wide open, dude.
Oh, poor baby.
Unfortunately, no brain cells firing for these students around the world holding climate change walkouts.
What retards.
It's just hilarious to me that, nobody questions, like on the left, nobody questions the climate narrative. It's just, we leave it up to the scientists that are funded by the government who want government grants in order to continue their research. It's always a constant appeal to authority. I ask these leftist people, give me some evidence. I worship reason and evidence, ladies and gentlemen. I bow down at the altar of reason and evidence. I can be convinced. I'm open-minded. Why do they always do a walkout, AJ? Because they don't have arguments. They don't do a talk-out. They do a walkout. Well, I can walk. I can't argue my position or say why I'm correct. What? Yeah, dude. There's no talk out. They don't want to talk it out. It's always a walkout because we've got to show our solidarity because we have no argument. We've got to just make a show of this idea that we believe. and go out and I feel the same way about protesters most of the time. Like you're not doing anything. Like we have an internet where, I mean, unless you're like filming it live on the internet and you're going out and protesting like a government building or something, like what are you doing? You're going out and chanting. You just look like a retard on the side of the street. Nobody's gonna join your cause
I'll join.
when you're like making your shitty marker signs with your cardboard cutouts and going out and marching and chanting, and nobody's gonna fucking hear you. Like nobody gives a fuck. Everybody's just trying to get on with their day. You're just virtue signaling that you don't have to actually go work a job or do anything productive. So these students, obviously their classes weren't very important to attend. You know, obviously they weren't. I think they shouldn't be in school. This is the federal funding. Students around the world, I mean, you know, these are all the colleges that get all this federal funding. Were the classes they were supposed to be attending not that important, where they just walk out and protest the climate? It's like a Native American rain dance at this point. They're going out and screaming at the sky because scientists told them that the world is ending.
Magic.
You got some vitamin supplements here?
With energy.
Oh my God, I thought you was trying to sleep.
Not right now. I'm saying for you. I'm telling you, for both of us. Crazy too.
Cool.
What energy is caffeine? I give this man things. He's like, "What is this for?" I'm like, "Cause I love you. Like, cause you're my friend."
I can see protesting the Federal Reserve, but yeah, any protest that's actually worthwhile, the security will crack down on it. It's like any protest that actually means anything, they're not going to allow. Any protest that's allowed is bullshit. Like these teachers going out and protesting for more money. Like, you made a terrible decision with your life choices there.
Wow, that's rough, Nick.
There are some good teachers out there. It's not always, but you are stepping into a state-run system where you're going to have to teach a Common Core program to your kids, and they're going to be tested on that Common Core program. And regardless of what you teach them, they're going to have to learn that certain Common Core curriculum for the test. And so you're basically a robot for propaganda, for delivering propaganda to the children. And you think that that's a valuable position in society. In a free market, a teacher would be an incredibly valuable position in society. But when it's public school and you have a mandated Common Core curriculum that, you know, you have to teach your kids that the Nazis are right wing and that, you know, the Great Depression was cured by socialism, and that, you know, Joseph McCarthy was a wingnut idiot who didn't know what he was talking about. You got to tell these lies. You got to talk about the Native American genocide. You got to talk about, oh my God, slavery is like, you know, the worst thing that's ever happened in the history of the world, the Atlantic slave trade.
I don't think anyone ever said that. There's no sentence in the book that said that.
Well, they harp on it in American history.
Fuck you. I'm sorry. But at some point you have to, I don't like you. Okay?
Well, it's the narrative they tell in history and the way it's framed.
The way you're saying it is so callous, though. Like, because slavery is really important. And we should be talking about it. They tried to get you out of the book, actually, recently. So parents are like, wait a minute, that's not his words. So, I'm sorry, but...
Well, it's the constant, like, if they would talk about other forms of slavery in history, but it's always...
American history. American slavery. They don't... If they have American history, they're not teaching about the world right after that. Not in detail.
Right, but if you teach it in context, you'll realize...
You just said no. You know what? No, I'm sorry. I love you, but I'm not stupid.
No, if you teach it in context, you realize that white people didn't invent slavery.
What context you're fucking talking about it with? Like, kill yourself.
And they, you know, they treat it as if white people invented slavery.
That's not... Well, that's how... You know what? I'm gonna go.
and they never mentioned that it was only like 2% of the population of the American public that actually owned slaves, and it was actually an elitist practice that. Where are you going?
What are you, my dad?
I'm like R. Kelly. Tell Daddy where you're going. Oh, dude. Oh yeah, that's the modern slavery. We're still talking about, you know, American history and the Atlantic slave trade. Meanwhile, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton created modern slavery in Libya. Why don't they say that on CNN at the gym? You know why. It's the same reason Bernie can't handle his shower door. All right? They're weak. But yeah, it's the comparison and the perspective you have to have with American slavery. 3 to 4% of the population owned slaves at the height of slavery in America. What up, Eric Cookie? The Arab slave trade went on for twice as long. They castrated all the slaves and raped the women. And it was barbaric as a motherfucker and much more widespread. But white Western Europeans are the only ones, whenever I say the word slavery, you automatically think of a white person owning a black person. And that's because of the constant harping on this shit, because it's profitable to focus on victimhood. And, you know, what people are owed based on historical disenfranchisement and da 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 da. And it's like, it was the least, you know, practiced cultural institution of slavery in the history of the world, and it lasted for the least amount of time, and it was ended by white Western European Christians. Yeah, it's just the obsession with victim mentality and like not wanting to take personal responsibility for your own. It's so they can say, oh, the echoes of slavery are still in the institutions, and there's institutional racism that's nebulous and can't really be pointed out, and it's holding us back. Even though, you know, some of the most successful, talented, you know, we had just had a black president for 8 years, and we couldn't criticize him, even though he was absolutely probably one of the worst presidents in history. We couldn't even criticize him because he was black. Vanessa says, well, I'm not a descendant of an American slave, so I guess I don't get to claim victimhood. Yes, you do. To the left, it's all based on skin color, because they're the racists, ladies and gentlemen. They're the party of judging you by your skin color and dividing everyone else into sections of race identity and gender identity and groupthink. And so you're on the team. You get to claim victimhood. You're a black woman. You get to claim, you know, you're at the height of the diversity pyramid. All right? If anything doesn't go wrong in your life, which is, you know, so condescending and fucked up. Like, if I was a black woman, I would resent that shit to the end. Like, oh my God, I'm like just expected to be a victim in my life. No, like, no, I have responsibility over my own life. But this is the way the left looks at it. Is like anything that goes wrong in your life, you can blame it on Whitey. Trans are at the top. I don't know about that. They're the most like, I don't know. They're so ridiculous that it's like, I don't know. The jury is still out on the trans people. I mean, even some people in the LGBTQ community resent trans people because, you know, they're like, I think there was some infighting not too long ago because, you know, they're claiming to the same victimhood status that regular women should be able to hold, and they're trying to step in and get that victim currency, baby. And they didn't earn it. They weren't born with that vagina that makes them a victim. Polemeister says, I don't really understand why people are so... Oh, yeah, I read that one. Practice went out of existence 250 years ago. Burgess said slavery was an institution. It was as hard to get rid of as the Inquisition. Yeah, I mean, white Western European Christians, they fucking got that shit done, baby. He said it's wrong. And we got to do the same thing with the government. Because taxation is a form of slavery. It's making you a slave to giving up the products of your labor. I mean, slavery means you give up 100% of what you make. Government only makes you give up 30 to 40% in America. But that's still, we're half slaves, baby, and we celebrate it like we're free. We're half slaves, baby. Let's watch American Gladiators and celebrate the freedom. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez wants to ratchet that up, baby. Because, you know, voluntarism, which would mean you get a choice to contribute to what you want to contribute. But taxation means you don't get a choice. All right? So it's forced upon you. And, I mean, she wants to tax the rich at 70%. Right now, they're taxed at 40%. They're the highest tax bracket, 40+% for the rich. I mean, if you don't have the political connections like Amazon or Netflix to pay zero taxes. But AOC wants to ratchet that up to 70%. Which begs the question, if 40% is good, 70% is better, what's even better than 70%? How about 100%? Let's just, instead of getting food stamps, how about you get your own slave? All right, your own personal slave that used to be a rich person. All right, and they can make you sandwiches and rub your feet, you know, and you could laugh at them because they used to have a Ferrari, and now they're, you know, they're watching you watch Netflix. All right. All right, I'm gonna take a quick little tinkle here and come back and read some comments and get another beer. Be right back. Another beer, ladies and gentlemen. I'm gonna try not to slip and bust my head open. Rob Hope, you know what it is, baby. We got the, you know, we got big brains and small bladders on the Outrage TV, the Federal Outrage Commune here. Yes, Rob Hope, crack that beer open, baby. Burgess says, feminists know that gay men who act like women aren't women, so they aren't allowed. Yeah, it's very insulting to the actual biological women there. Um, PewDiePie, how Donald Trump wins in 2020 universal health care for dogs. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. If your dog gets diabetes, the taxpayer needs to fund that, ladies and gentlemen. We need taxpayer funding for vegan cats. Polemeister says there's not enough rich folk to satisfy the unwashed masses. Of course, and rich people are very good at not paying taxes. They're very good at lobbying Congress and buying plane tickets when they realize it's their time to get out of Dodge. Polemeister says, make sure we hear you piss. I hope you heard me piss. You were going to a Slayer concert tonight? That's pretty hardcore, bro. Are you one of those Satanist trolls out there? I think it's, I don't get freaked out by, like most right wingers, by the Satanists there. Not that I'm a right winger. I mean the labels are so fucked up. I can't even talk about political positions because like right winger conjures up visions of rednecks and conservative Republicans and like extreme religious people. I'm just into freedom, baby. But yeah, and there's an element of the trolling the religious right there that I think is kind of funny. The old Satan death metal there. I know, I'm just fucking with you, Rob Hope. Just fucking around, baby. You okay?
Sorry.
She's over there smoking that devil's lettuce. It's okay. She's taking a hit off the pinch hitter there. That's that California weed hitting them lungs, baby. Burgess says, I'm an actual real Satanist. Most others are pretenders. They think we kill infants, animals. No, that's what Planned Parenthood and PETA is for. Oh, you're in that Church of the Beast there, sir. That's do you sacrifice goats? Are you down with the Muslims? Are you mad at the Muslims for having sex with goats? Oh, the truth will hit you in that air pipe, dude. Just like it hit Bernie's forehead. That's what I'm saying. Bernie shower door 2020, dude. That's, Are goats good for eating? I've never heard of goat being involved in any kind of cuisine. Usually it's the sheep. Usually it's that lamb there. Let's see, what's Eric Cookie talking about? Eric Cookie says, if I owned a business, I wouldn't want to get taxed. I imagine nobody would. Yeah, dude. Vanessa says, it's a privilege reserved for big businesses. My parents own mid-sized company and definitely pay taxes. Yeah, I mean, my dad owned a bicycle shop in Ponca City, Oklahoma. And although not probably the best market research went into this, high-end bicycles in Ponca City, Oklahoma. But it was a flourishing business there for a little bit. And then Walmart moved into town. Those zero tax motherfuckers. The Waltons moved in and started selling cheap ass bikes for a third of the price. And the people of Ponca City went, oh, third of the price? Well, if it lasts, a tenth of the time, we don't care. because we're just, we're cutting back in the short term, and people will go for, the less quality if they can pay a third of the price. And Walmart can do that because they pay no tax. And so everybody got their goddamn cheap bicycles, and my dad went out of business. Ended up throwing a bucket of KFC fried chicken at the curtains there. It was a stressful family time. We got through it, Cookie says, business owners supply jobs, bigger businesses, more contributions to society, less tax. Kind of makes sense. Yeah, I don't think anybody should pay any tax. It's just the comparison that allows big business to cut out their competition. And that's why you see big business stagnating and, the quality drops. Once they achieve a virtual monopoly, the quality starts to drop. Because who else are you going to go to? Once you have the name recognition and all the fucking, locations as physical advertising everywhere, and it's like, you got the market cornered, baby.
You got the dick cornered.
What's up, Yanni? I won't ignore you, brother. Let's talk discolored penises.
Ew.
That's, I can see why people are ignoring you now, Yanni. When you bring up conversation topics like that, all right? Nobody wants to think of a discolored penis. They want to, they want to have that uniform color, all right? Nobody wants that candy cane cock, okay? You want to have a nice uniform shade.
Well, it is outrage. Yes, on top.
The death tax is super BS. Oh, is that when somebody dies, the state reserves the right to take some of their estate? Oh, isn't that delicious? We're hovering over your corpse, waiting. Waiting. Yeah, dude, you got to take that money out of the banks and hide it under your goddamn mattress.
Under your balls.
Heaven, what they want to know your opinion on taxation.
I feel like taxes are bullshit, especially in California, because nothing's getting fixed. There's still more and more homeless people. Why are we being taxed? And it's getting higher and higher. We're getting less actual personal needs. All we're doing is after data and internets, not personal like potholes and shit and like solving problems. So taxes, I'd be cool with it if like it would actually helping, but it's not.
Yeah, most people like they feel like it's some kind of transaction, but it's a theft, and people don't realize that because most people are like they want to offset that responsibility to like fix the potholes or whatever. They don't want to have to think about that, so they just let's pay taxes and let them do it.
It's like being with a husband.
And then off in the corner, the senators are just like butt fucking and putting meth up their asshole and like just getting crazy because their money is guaranteed. And they don't have to provide any value to anybody. They don't have any fidelity to the marketplace. And so they're just over there just doing whatever the fuck they want and going to Jeffrey Epstein's, pedophile island and just going crazy. And, they're getting wild, baby. They're getting buck wild. Because, there's nobody to check their behavior because their money is stolen. Ladies and gentlemen. And that's when you don't have an incentive to provide value back to the market for the money you're getting, you're automatically going to get a lower quality product. and
No,
service.
no, no. It's like being with a boyfriend that beats you, but he's rich. But he's not really rich because you stole all your money. But he's hot. But you can fucking up your life, but you're with him anyway.
The government is like 50 Shades of Grey.
But worse because they're horrible. 50 Shades of Grey, I fuck with that.
But they're actually broke. The government doesn't have any money. They just steal money from you. They don't. They're not like the billionaire guy that like handcuffs you and like has exciting sex. It's all the same as that, but then you realize he's just been taking money from your bank account the whole time.
Yes, you're like, what the fuck?
It's like the government is 50 Shades of Grey, but you realize he's hacked into your bank account and he's financing all of this helicopter bullshit with your money. And you're like, wait, what? This is considerably less sexy now.
He's taking you to dinner with your money. Fuck. That's so fucked up.
AJ asked, how do we know about Bernie Sanders hitting his head on the shower door? Was CNN in there? CNN, you know, they have a constant, you know, asshole cam on Bernie Sanders. They have cameras in his shower. And they just, you know, furiously masturbating, hoping he will be the Democratic nominee.
Furiously masturbating. Disgusting.
Vanessa says if the government was that kinky, I wouldn't mind. They are that kinky, you know. They just do it coercively.
No, they're not kinky because they're not being like seductive with it. They're just kind of taking it and telling you they're being kinky.
Yeah, they're not kinky. They're creepy and sneaky.
Yeah, they're nasty and they keep roofing you, so you never remember what they actually did to you. And there's some guys that are helping you, and all they're doing is fucking you. Bad. 2 pump chump, and it hurts.
Yanni wants to know how I know he'll be fine. I guess with his multicolored penis. Girls are extremely judgmental and shallow and gossipy.
No.
So all the girls are talking about your candy cane cock there. That seems like a good problem to have, dude.
Yeah, just be confident with it. Every girl likes a guy with confidence. Just be like, yeah, suck my candy cane, bitch. Like, fuck, I promise you.
You got that multicultural cock.
Yeah, that's all you are. You're like, it's 2019, baby. Like, what do you look at? Like,
Girls love Neapolitan.
hey, if it's your natural dick and you got no diseases, just be confident with that shit. It's your dick. That's your fucking wand.
You just gotta remember. You just gotta remember to do your dick push-ups. You know.
And put on a
Keep
condom.
Keep it in shape.
Use a condom.
Yeah, use a condom, and then they won't even be able to see what color it is.
Exactly. Problem fucking solved. Get them colored ones too. Oh.
And you won't end up having a baby with one of these shit-talking broads.
Yeah, you tell, yeah, my crazy dick got you pregnant. What then? Mr. Crazy Dick Malone over here.
Burgess says, are you talking to me that I'm wrong? Our $20 trillion in debt is a minor credit card debt. You know how much the USA is worth? Interesting. Please elucidate. I know that the GDP is, you know, it's about the debt to GDP ratio. And that, you know, the 20 trillion in debt is less of a problem because we have the world reserve currency and, you know, but we're producing, we don't produce enough as a country. And our economic strength is based on, you know, confidence and confidence in the Federal Reserve to be able to maintain this crazy pirate ship in America that's staying afloat. So it's, you know, we've got to avoid the continued rate of inflation we're at. Like, since the Federal Reserve was instituted in 1913, the dollar has dropped 98+% of what it used to be. That's why you used to be able to buy a hamburger for a nickel, and the ratio of the wages hasn't, you know, stayed in step with that. And so the dollar is getting radically devalued because of centralized control in the Federal Reserve, thinking that you can like centralized like control and manipulate a country, an economy of 320 million people, and all the economic interactions going on. Like, I can dial in the interest rates for this. It's so megalomaniacal and narcissistic. Like, yeah, it's not based on anything. AJ, you're dead on the money. We got off the gold standard in, I think, the 70s. And so it's just based on our like military power and leverage over other countries. And so kind of precarious there. And the '08 crisis, it showed us the precariousness of putting our trust in the big banks to just do their thing, and we're at the whim of the Federal Reserve System and the big banks, and they're not doing anything wrong. They're just loving, and they want to help you save your money and preserve it and keep it safe. It's just fine. Don't ask any questions. Obama did get his campaign financed by the same big banks he bailed out, but that's okay. He's black. Don't be racist. That's the most important thing. AJ, that is fucking hilarious. The Federal Reserve has a YouTube channel and they have the comments disabled. Oh, dude. Oh. Janet Yellen doesn't want to read those negative comments there. I don't even know if she's still the Federal Reserve Chair. Is she still Federal Reserve Chairman? Let's see the king of banking. I think it's still Janet Yellen. No, it's Jerome Powell. Interesting. Mr. Salt and Pepper Hair, smug face. Jerome Powell since 2018. Yeah. I'll be very surprised if he's not Jewish. He doesn't look Jewish. I don't think Powell is a he was nominated by Trump. Very interesting. But yeah, it's just absurd that the institution itself exists. Like that there's this private entity that dictates the monetary policy of a country of 320 million people. And it's just this group of nerds in a room that's like, don't audit us. We know what we're doing. Check the flight logs. They're on Epstein's plane, god damn it. Oh yeah, I gotta stay hydrated, Vanessa. You know, a man cannot exist on natty light alone. Must retract the Federal Reserve Act. I'm down with that, Burgess. I'm down with that. It's one of those white guy things. Burgess says, for those who don't know, this is a scam. This is a scam. They print the money. They charge the interest on it to the government. Pretty sick, right? Yeah. So the taxpayers have to pay down the interest that the Federal Reserve charges the government. And so we have to fit the bill for them setting up this insane system. It all falls on the taxpayer there. And, because the American people couldn't possibly figure out their own system of money. They're just so retarded. There was never a system of bartering, all right? Before the Jews came in and started this whole fractional reserve banking system, it was just, people were lost in the wilderness trying to trade goats for shoes and cheese for wine and fucking haircuts for fingernails. It was chaos out there until these loving Jews came in and started, holding our gold in exchange for pieces of paper and then lending it out at interest behind our back. What would we do without the wonderful bankers? Oh my God. It's amazing to me how people complain about the banking system and how bad we're getting fucked over. Meanwhile, they got a Chase card in their wallet. It's like, what are you doing? Polmeister says, as much as I don't like the Fed, they gave you the economic power to buy the world and become the #1 economy. Well, no, because it's not real money. It's fake money. It's not based on any economic productivity. It's a bubble. All right. Any money that you don't provide value in exchange for is fake. And so they're just typing money into their bank accounts and pretending like they're wealthy. And the government legitimizes it. And so it's seen as legitimate, but it's not legitimate at all. There's no production or value or services or products to back it up. And so it's not real. What's provided America to be the economic superpower it is the actual things we've produced, the actual inventions that we've created, the culture we've created in movies and everything that came out of Hollywood previously, and the culture we've perpetuated around the world that people want to be a part of. That's what gives America value, and the industry that through the Industrial Revolution we came up and created this huge technological society and all the big tech companies that came out of America. That's what gives the country value, not what the Federal Reserve says. The Federal Reserve is there on the sideline just taking credit for shit and typing money into their bank accounts and wielding power and not being audited by the Congress and just... Burgess says the Federal Reserve is as federal as Federal Express. They're a private bank. Yeah. Yes, sir. Paul Meister, well, tell me where I'm wrong. Tell me where I'm wrong, baby. I'm willing to be corrected. If you got a master's in economics over there, I've just read a little Murray Rothbard. I've read some economics in one lesson, and read some Ludwig von Mises, and I've listened to a lot of libertarian podcasters out there, and listened to some audiobooks and did some research into the stock market and shit. And so I feel like I have a decent grasp on the fundamentals of economics, but I'm willing to be schooled at any angle. But I know when there's an excess of capital and a lack of production of actual products and services and value into the economy, that's a bubble. And that's seems to be what the United States economy has become. But even fake value becomes real when people abroad start paying actual money for those services. Very interesting. Yeah, you're talking about they're buying like bonds, like buying shares in the government. That's interesting. But you know, there's a time when you have to pay the piper, when the actual production isn't matching the value that you're supposed to be providing, and it hits home. That's what happened in '08 when there was supposed to be all this value in home ownership, and turns out these people couldn't make their mortgage payments because the banks were making retarded decisions, and loaning people huge amounts of money they obviously couldn't pay back based on diversity quotas. Trying to be progressive. So that's the piper you have to pay for progressivism. AJ says, I know how to type money into a computer game, and I have, and now I need to figure out how to do it with my PNC account. There you go, buddy. Now you're thinking like a Jew. Well, yeah, that's the problem, cynics, is that incestual relationship between government and banking. We need to separate. We already have a separation of church and state. That was huge for America, and huge for why Christianity is the preferred religion. We need a separation of state and economics. We got to get the government out of the money industry, because that leads to corrupt, corrosive institutions like the Federal Reserve, and it leads to all this hubris thinking they can fucking do anything they want. That was a political choice. No bank wanted that at the time. Well, the banks, they have to compete with each other. And if one bank is doing all these derivatives and making all these crazy loans and loaning out on interest and making all this money back on interest, well, in order to compete, the big six, they look at the other ones that are doing this shady shit with the government and all the regulators and the incestuous relationship that they have. And they're like, well, if I'm going to compete on the highest level, I got to do the same shit they're doing. I got to pay a lobbying team. I got to, get on the same playing field. And so it's that race to the bottom once you involve the government in economics, once you, allow them to the power to pass these regulations and escape their own tax burden, then, and the big banks that are getting the safety net, they can't fail. And so they can just gamble all they want on derivatives over and over and over. And the bank has this, and the government has the safety net under the bank. And so it's like, of course you're going to do that. If you want to compete with the other big institutions, you got to do that in order to stay afloat. And so the government is the big problem in the room. It's the gun forcing people to participate in a fucked up system. Yeah, it's literal fascism. It's fascism by definition, Burgess. Exactly. That's state directed economics, state directed business. Communism was a state directly owns the business. Fascism is where the state dictates what business does and does not. So if you think about it, I don't know. I guess Bernie is a little more communist because he wants to set up these federal institutions for for schooling and for healthcare and all this shit. But he could also be considered somewhat of a fascist as well. Nicolas Quintanilla says the government should have bailed out its citizens to settle their loans, but honestly, people still probably wouldn't have paid the banks with that government money. Yeah, you never see the taxpayers getting bailed out. They're always fitting the bill. Bernie just combs his hair with a balloon. That's how you sum up Bernie. Was it the Democrats or the reps making banks give loans? I'm not so sure. I don't know if it was a partisan deal. I think the banking system is kind of like the warfare system. Like it's kind of across the aisle. Because they have so much power. Yeah, it was pretty much an Obama thing because the big banks financed Obama during his campaign, and so of course he was going to turn right around and give him deals in return, because that's how modern democracy works. Isn't democracy so wonderful? All right, one more piss and one more beer. Rate me out of 10 on the Federal Outrage Chancellor's flow here. I'm going to come back and we're going to probably get into some silly shit. We've been on some economics here. I'll find something silly to get into. Be right back, baby. I'm pissing hard. Yeah, boy. I appreciate y'all hanging out for my drunken economics rants here. I've had kind of a slow day. Took a long fucking nap in the middle of the day after a workout. I ate a fucking whole pizza and a pint of ice cream and shit, and knocked me out. And the lineup on the comedy club was all full all fucking day, so I couldn't even get a slot to do some stand up tonight. So I'm on the docket for tomorrow night. I'll be rocking it out. Hopefully I'll film the shit and be able to get you some clips out here. Share some more stand up clips on the channel here. Oh, Mises and Rothbard, they're the kings, baby. Bernie was the fall guy from the start. Yeah, I don't know what it is with Bernie. They're just like, he's such a joke. It's like, I literally don't know what the fuck the left is going to do. This election is just a total fail from the start. They're just falling straight on their face, falling straight into their, shower doors on this election. It's a perfect microcosm for the entire left wing coming up in 2020. They're just falling straight into their own shower doors, and I think it's easy. I think it's going to be a Trump landslide, honestly, because they're just so divided and they're just a fucking mess. Polemeister said, up the tempo of my stand up. Yeah. Um, I'm very contemplative on stage, and I like to let it breathe. There's the punchlines. Sometimes they hit much harder when you have a moment of silence before them, and it creates a little tension in the room, especially when you're talking about controversial shit. You want to let people process what you're talking about. And so, I'm talking about voting Obama and Trump, and, I want to let it breathe a little bit and let people process it and let people feel me and then drop it on them. But ow! All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you're like, what is this? And you're like,
I'm the definition of half man, half drums, ass the clubs, bad boy, that's what's up, half the bucks, crush crews after us, no games, we ain't laughing much, nothing but big things, check the hit.
out of nowhere, it just hits you, dude. Out of nowhere, dude. Oh, you said you like to stand up, Polemeister, you bad motherfucker. Trump versus Beto in 2020. I've been saying it. The race against Ted Cruz was just a ploy to get his name out there. I don't know. The Beto male generation might come out, dude. They might but it's hard for the left to support a straight white male, a fucking straight white male. So the odds are against him. I mean, Beto's kind of like, I don't know, dude. He doesn't have any ethos behind him. He doesn't have like the marketing. He's just kind of, pretending to be a Democrat with testosterone, and he's selling shirts. He doesn't talk about any policies. I was talking about his policies the other night. He's just basically like, we need to fund the propaganda center public schools, and we need to fight climate change. And oh, he's on as much testosterone as a soy diet can accommodate. All right, he's on that tofu, and he's trying. He mostly attacks Trump. Yeah, they don't have any ideas. They're just, we hate Trump. Yeah, he's a rich white dude. That's not gonna work, baby. That's not gonna work. What else we got in the news? Saturday Night Live was accused of plagiarizing sketches. Some small YouTube channel accused them of stealing their sketch of fucking pumpkins. And, it's just, humor is so lowbrow now. Like, everything's got to be about your dick. It's got to be about, I go to these comedy clubs and everything is about a dick or a pussy. Everything is about killing yourself and how depressed you are and like how many drugs you do. It's like so retarded, dude. I don't fucking get it. Like, these people don't have any like comprehensive worldview. They don't have like a philosophy that they're going by, and so it's just like all lowest common denominator. Like, I feel like we're devolving as a culture. I mean, that as the government gets bigger, we devolve back into primates, I think. Because we're just being used as, meat vessels that produce tax money. We're the tax cattle for the big government. And so everything just becomes super shallow and nonsensical and devoid of any meaning. And, the beauty gets taken away. Like, where's all the beautiful music? Where's the new, like, I mean, Led Zeppelin was pretty subversive for their time, but there's a lot of beauty in Led Zeppelin. Where's like the beauty that was in classical music? Or where's like the beauty of Stanley Kubrick's films, or like the early Martin Scorsese films? Like, where is the beauty in society? It's all like degenerated trash reality TV, like awkward comedy on Netflix. Oh my god, it's so awkward. We don't know how to interact socially. Isn't it hilarious? And it's like, no, you're just an impotent fucking loser. Like, is that the height of art now? Like, and like there's this comic I know that goes to the fourth wall, and he's a hilarious comic. Well, he's pretty funny, but he went on this big podcast with this other comic, and they were sharing clips on Instagram, and it was like they're just talking about like how much you would, it's like this stupid conversation, like how much would you have to get paid to suck a dick on camera? And it's like this gay shit that's just like dumb as fuck, and that's what passes for comedy. Like, would you suck the dick? And it's like, that's what's in these people's heads out here in Hollywood. It's like they're contemplating how many dicks they're gonna have to suck to make it in the industry. And it's like, dude, this is just nonsense. PewDiePie says, Joe Rogan said Carlin would be able to do his stand-up and use late night as an example. I totally forgot all those right-wingers censoring liberals. 2 toes down Rogan. Oh yeah, SNL is absolute trash. I'm not sure what you mean by that comment, PewDiePie. Joe Rogan said Carlin would or wouldn't be able to do his stand-up and use late night as an example. Totally forgot about all those right-wingers censoring liberals. Well, the religious right, there was an element there in the 70s and 80s and early 90s where the religious right was kind of censoring language and sexuality, and there was a rebound to that, but we've totally, like, the pendulum has swung way too fucking far, and now it's just like free gangbang fucking all over the internet, and it's 90% of the internet is just gangbang fucking. And it's like, that's not the answer for society. It's like it's a mark of an unhealthy society that's what everybody's concentrating on. It's like, it's not that much of a landmark for society to be able to say fuck and be able to show fucking. Like, okay, we got past that. We had the sexual liberation. Now it's like you've got all these single mothers in the welfare state, and that's a huge burden on the economy. It's like, that's the real, consequences of, and the whole Me Too movement is about the sexual liberation. It's about the bad aspects of the sexual liberation, where like, and feminism, encouraging women to go into the workforce more. So now you got women and men working together, and there's these awkward social, like, sexual politics that have to be negotiated, and nobody knows how to negotiate them, and so everybody's getting offended, and like, it's just not, it's not what we should be focusing on. Everybody's looking away and looking to focus on something that's a battle that's already been won. Like, women already have the right to vote. They already have more than equality in society. Everything in the legal system is based on helping women. In the family court system, everything that has to do with race that's written into law is based on helping minorities. It's all affirmative action and diversity quotas. That battle has already been won, but the left is still harping on it because that's their cash cow, is the victimhood narrative. And so they can't just move on and be like, okay, we won that battle. They've got to harp on it and harp on it and harp on it. It's like, gay marriage, okay, good. Now transgender bathrooms. And it's like they just move right on to the next thing and keep encroaching, encroaching, encroaching. And because nobody has any fundamental principles to be able to step back from the situation and like analyze and evaluate what's really important in society, which is freedom, and how it's steadily being eroded from the individual. And nobody wants to focus on that because it's like, oh, what's my identity and how am I a victim and how can I make money based on that? And what up, Koosty? Yeah, that's what it's come to, Vanessa. Feminists don't want equality, they want supremacy. Exactly. I mean, the first wave of feminism was kind of legitimate. They were like, we exist in the society, we should probably be able to vote. And, you know, there was a shortage of workers when all the men got drafted in that horrific little thing called World War II. And so there were the Rosie the Riveter, like legitimate feminists that went and took the positions that the men vacated when they went and fought the war and kept the economy running. And that was noble. And that was the first wave of feminism. But after that, once they got the right to vote, once they were, you know, in the workforce, and it's like, what else do you want? You want, like, they want to, like, they just keep encroaching because it's government sponsored and government encouraged. And so they have that safety net and they just keep pushing and pushing and pushing until they, you know, just piss everybody off. They've gone too far, goddammit. But speaking to the right-wing censorship, so that's all gone. Christianity has declined significantly in America. There's no more censorship of sexuality. Sex is all over TV. It's all over movies. It's 90% of the internet. You can watch gangbangs right now if you want to, but you're choosing to watch me, and I commend you. All right, you could be watching gangbangs right now. You're watching economic arguments. You're the baddest motherfuckers on the planet. So there's no right-wing religious censorship anymore. And so the left has taken up, they've won the cultural battle so hard. They have so much control over the media in Hollywood that now they're in such a power lust, they're trying to censor anyone who speaks out against the source of their power, which is the government. Anyone who speaks out and wants a small government has to be labeled alt-right, has to be labeled far-right, has to be labeled a Nazi. And so that's why I push that narrative so hard, that it's not a narrative, it's the truth, that the Nazis were not right-wing. The Nazis were socialists, they were leftist. Hitler was a soy boy, vegetarian failed artist who couldn't get laid. And that's what they don't teach you in the public school situation there. That's why I don't support funding for public school, because they train you to be a robot idiot for the leftist agenda. Kuntz says, no one should legislate morality. I'm a Christian and believe in equality, but we can't force people to follow Christian morality or to be nice. That's where you fail as a Christian. You should be more like the Muslims and the Jewish people who just have radical in-group preference and try to take over the institutions there and subvert the entire society for your own benefit. Why are you so selfless? All right, you should be wanting to tyrannically rule everyone and, you know, take over society. How dare you? Where is your in-group preference? You have pathological altruism as a Christian, and it's just we're gonna take advantage of it. All right, we're gonna take advantage of that Christian guilt, and it's like that's the thing. Christians are the most forgiving and self-effacing people on the face of the planet, but they get trashed the most, especially in the media, and just especially late night TV and on the stand-up. Christians are openly trashed because there's no repercussions. Try trashing the Jews on stage in Hollywood. Try trashing the Muslims. See how it goes for you. I do it. I do it. But the Christians, there's no risk in trashing Christians because they just turn the other cheek. And they're like, well, if you don't want to be a part of it, I guess that's your choice. And it's like because they're not trying to they're not coercive. They're not like the Jews and the Muslims who try to work their way into the government system and impose their way of life on other people. That's not their bag. Their bag is universal morality. They don't have a separate morality for their own in group. They have a universal morality and they have it voluntarily. They'd say, oh, you can choose it or not, and that's your choice. And that's the badass thing about Christians. And that's the shame about George Carlin, is that was his ultimate, rail was against the Christians. And I can see all of his points on metaphysics. He's dead on the money on metaphysics. But culturally and socially, Christianity is very beneficial. And, he sided with the 60s hippie movement because I don't think George Carlin was fundamentally a communist. I think he saw the things they represented in the moment, like freedom of speech and no censorship and things and principles that he actually held, and so he saw those principles in this hippie movement in the '60s, and we're like, okay, that's my thing, not this Reagan right wing fake Christian thing, and so I see exactly where Carlin was coming from, but he didn't realize that it was literally communist subversion creeping into the culture. It wasn't about principles of free speech and anti-war. And we see that now, especially with Obama. That's why Obama broke the left, is because he wasn't about protecting whistleblowers. He went after whistleblowers. He wasn't anti-war. We were at war every day of his presidency, and he started new ones. And he, destabilized the Middle East and funded, armed, and trained ISIS and Al Qaeda in the Middle East, and collapsed Syria and Libya. And it's like unbelievably treasonous behavior. And he's supposed to be the community organizer, the nice, leftist guy. And Carlin didn't see that big picture of the demoralization. Exactly, PewDiePie. The Soviet subversion, the Yuri Bezmenov thing that happened. Anti-capitalism, which came along with the ideology. It's unfortunate because he was smarter than that. But he's a product of his generation. He was rebelling against the powerful forces that were ruling over him at his time. Bill Hicks, I feel the same way. I feel like if they were living in this time, Bill Hicks and George Carlin would be considered Nazis and they would be shamed by the social justice left. But it's just they came up in the time where the ruling class was right-wing Christians. And so it was the cool move to rebel against that. But if you look at their actual ideas and what they talk about, they're principled people that believe in free speech and challenging sacred cows and all of these things that we love. So yeah, people are a product of their time, but the left has pushed entirely too far. They've jumped the shark, and most of America has realized it. So they got to import those third world immigrants, baby, to save their asses. Yeah, he'd be going against political correctness. Carlin talked specifically about political correctness. Um, it just so happens that the political establishment during his time were right wing Christians, and so the move to be subversive at that time was to talk about sex openly and curse a lot and not give a fuck, and so that was part of the Carlin ethos. But that's how Obama broke the left, is because he was a total fake, and he was emblematic of everything they were supposed to love, and he was a total failure. And so that's why I think you see Doug Stanhope doing a lot less political material now, is because it's he was kind of a leftist who called himself a libertarian, and he can't bring himself to criticize the current ruling class, which is the establishment left and the media and the big government deep state. That's the real political establishment. Even though Donald Trump is president, they're trying to take him out any way they possibly can. Oh, appreciate it, AJ. The PC police videos, those are fucking ridiculous. I saw that Cory Booker is dating Rosario Dawson. I've had a crush on Rosario Dawson for the longest fucking time, dude. And Cory Booker is an absolutely disgusting human being. A ravenous, race-baiting, borderline obese, sugar-toothed weirdo. Crooked-eyed, psycho. I honestly don't buy those rumors. I think he probably paid to have those rumors spread on Twitter. And what up, 1,000 Yard? What's cracking, baby? We're just here talking about how Bernie Sanders' shower door should run for president in 2020. He would probably get the Democratic nomination. And how, right-wing censorship versus left-wing censorship. And George Carlin and his rebelling against the right-wing Christians hid the merits and the shortcomings. And talking about students around the world holding climate change walkouts in allegiance with AOC and the retard cult called We Believe in Climate Change. It's not global warming anymore. Climate change, because Al Gore's predictions all came wrong. All the predictions were wrong. But the students still believe, all right, because the government tells them so. I thought Generation Z was supposed to be more conservative, but it seems like there's a lot of retards out there on AOC's Twitter feed. Dear God. Don't put your kids in public school, ladies and gentlemen. That's how we change the tide there for the next generation. The only thing that's going to shame the left, they're not going to be shamed with arguments. They've got to be shamed by relentless mockery, ladies and gentlemen. Relentless mockery, and that's what we bring here at Outrage TV. That's what we're trying to get accomplished. Yeah, we're trying to make some sketches again, man. But Kevin Bennett is just out here doing his French accent character on stage and playing an accordion and getting paid for it. And I respect the motherfucker for doing his thing. But goddammit, he has no time in his schedule to come and make some legendary shit on Outrage TV, and it upsets me greatly because he's out there telling bullshit one-liners on stage with an accordion and a French accent. and he's not accomplishing what we could be. Public schools are turning our sons gay just like the frogs are turning gay, dude. It's a goddamn travesty. Yeah, dude. Public school teacher touching your kid than a priest, fuck that. Yeah, anybody who's funded by taxation, watch the fuck out. All right? Because they have that arrogance that they're owed their salary. And that, you know, people steal the money that's paid to them. And so they don't have an actual fidelity to the market. They don't have to actually provide value in their job. And so they have this arrogance that they can just do whatever they want. And with that arrogance comes corruption. All right? All right, ladies and gents, I've drank enough booze for tonight. I appreciate y'all hanging out. Follow me on Instagram at Nick Jordan himself. I'll be sharing clips out there. On Twitter at I am Nick Jordan. The full podcast audio is on all the podcast apps under Outrage Cast, all one word. Like it if you like it. Share that motherfucker out if you want to share it. Subscribe to the channel. The public schools are making our sons gay, and we will not have it, ladies and gentlemen. We will stand up in the face of the tyrants and of the people that slip on their own jizz in their shower and hit their head on the shower door, ladies and gentlemen. We will not submit to the communist tyrants. We will shame them and mock them in open public, and we will not hold back, ladies and gentlemen. Because when the Outrage crew comes in the room, when the Outrage crew comes in the room, you know what the fuck it is, dude.
You ready? Let's do it.
Communists can't compete. We just out here flexing on people, dude. That's what happens, man. They don't want it. All right? Oh, yes. All right, everybody. I'll catch you bad motherfuckers tomorrow night. Same Outrage time, same Outrage channel. Appreciate y'all hanging out. Peace to you. Big ups. Big ups to the Outrage crew. Have a